It's time for MacBreak Weekly! And, well, 1 week into the new iPad Air era, we'll take a look at that, problems people are having with iOS 7, why Larry Lessig is up in arms, and the Apple earnings call. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 374, recorded October 29th, 2013. The Circle of Commercial Life. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website, portfolio, or online store. For a free trial and 10% off, go to squarespace.com and use our offer code MacBreak10. And by the new PDFpen Scan Plus from Smile, the scanning and OCR app for your iPhone or iPad. Now you can go paperless wherever you are by turning your receipts and contracts into searchable PDFs. It's the power of your office in your pocket. Learn more at smilesoftware.com/MacBreak. And by Shutterstock.com. With over 28 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips, Shutterstock helps you take your creative projects to the next level. For 25% off your new account, visit Shutterstock.com and use the offer code MacBreak1013. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show that covers Apple's announcements obsessively all year round. Joining me right now, Andy Anako from the Chicago Sun-Times, a Boston Red Sox fan. He bleeds red. Wait a minute. That makes, I guess.
Only when the Red Cross technician is a trainee. Usually when they put the needle in for my donations, it's there's very little blood. Don't worry about that.
Hey, Andrew. Congratulations on the Bo Sox. One game away. They're going home.
My contribution was negligible at best. However, I'm glad to do whatever I could have done.
Isn't that funny about team sports? Renee Ritchie's also here from imore.com. Hi, Renee.
Hi, we have no baseball left in Montreal. I can't contribute to this thread.
Yep. But it is funny how one feels often as a fan that one in some way influences the result. I guess it does in certain football stadiums like Seattle, where it's so noisy that the opponents can't actually hear anything.
that was my reaction last night. That after being really happy that the Sox won, and so now Game 6 and 7 are going to be at Fenway. I'm a fan of baseball in general, not just the Sox, and I just have to think about, the Cardinals are going to have a really special experience trying to take the World Series away from the Red Sox in Fenway Park, which is already the most intimate of the ball stadium in the entire major leagues. I mean, if you've ever been there, it's like great. Every seat if you've been there and any other park that's been built in 20 years, you feel like you're at like the Sandlot where everybody is like 10 feet away. So if someone is giving an opposing pitcher the finger, that pitcher knows exactly what finger that is. And if it's possible for a player's feelings to get hurt, that player's feelings are going to get hurt. So I hope that whatever, I don't know how long the bus ride is from Cincinnati. From St. Louis to Boston, but I hope they spend that bus ride just toughening these players up and realizing that hurtful things are going to be said.
That's the thing I love about Fenway and Wrigley is that you can actually sit literally 3 feet from the on-deck circle. You could reach out and touch the on-deck batter, and those are the only two fields still to do that, obviously. But we're not here to talk baseball, much as I'd like to.
Hockey time.
Let's talk hockey. Let us talk Apple. Lots of stuff to talk about. I don't even know where to begin. We are, of course, 1 week out from the Apple iPad announcements, the MacBook Pro with Retina. Here we go. There was only one thing I could buy, so I bought it. The new MacBook Pro with Retina. Let's start with that because people in the chat room somebody in the chat room keeps going in and saying, why don't you ever talk about the image retention issue with the MacBook Retina?
Some days it's all we can think about. Where would we stop? Honestly, chat room. That would be the entire 90 minutes. And we'd still be all angry and worked up, and then it would be time for the next show.
I don't know because I don't.
We're right with you on this.
I don't have it. Is there an image?
I have. Yeah,
okay, what is it?
I have it so badly that sometimes I think Gruber is trolling me by making Daring Fireball transparent.
Oh, that's bad.
So what it is I believe it's the LG and not the Samsung displays. You can get two different displays in a MacBook, and I don't even think the geniuses know which part is coming in when they order it.
I see.
And I believe it was the LG display. The image will linger. Bright areas will linger. So if you go to some place that has Daring Fireball Gray is the best example on it, you will see the burn-in from whatever you had on the screen for a long period of time before that. It doesn't last forever, and some people it drives crazy. It hasn't bothered me enough that I've taken it to the Genius Bar yet, but I absolutely will do. And they run a little test, and if they can verify it or just take your word for it, they'll swap out the display, and you can play, screen lottery with them again.
Yeah, because you still can't say I want an LG or I don't want an LG display. So where would I find? First of all, is there somewhere in the about this Macintosh I can find what display part I have?
Don't think so. And it's not all of the LGs. Just it seems like the LGs are susceptible to it, where the Samsung I don't think are. And I might be getting the names mixed up. So I apologize to both Korean conglomerates if I am mixing them up. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's almost like a lottery, and you get a bad one, you can take it back until you get one that really works.
Goodness.
I'm hoping they fixed it with the second generation.
The good news is Apple at least acknowledges it and replaces it. The bad news is that happened at all because it happened last time, didn't it? We had the same exact issue.
I haven't heard about it happening with the second generations yet. I haven't, at least not in any large quantities.
Oh, well, people are complaining about it. So you're saying the fall 2013s do not have this problem? I
haven't seen it yet. They might well, but I have not seen it yet. And I thought that they'd fixed it towards the latter end of the 2012 cycle.
Okay.
It's also important. It's also important to note that, as with any new Apple product, don't even hesitate. If you've got any sort of an issue with it, take it right back to the Apple Store. Not only because they have their usual "we're awesome" policy about making you happy, but also, again, whether it's a phone, a tablet, a notebook, or whatever, Cupertino issues a hunting license for the geniuses, saying please capture at least 3 devices that have been dropped. Please capture 1 device that's been exposed to water. Please capture. There's a lot. I've seen these lists. It's a long laundry list of specific issues in which they won't even hesitate. They will put that into a big plastic coffin, ship it back to Cupertino, and swap you out a new one. That's not an official policy, mind you. But within the first 2 or 3 weeks of a new product cover, it should at least encourage you to, why don't you go, don't just wait to see if this gets better. Maybe you should take it back right today, because it's very, very possible they will do things that they're not required to do under warranty that are to your benefit.
Marco Arment at marco.org has an article, Retina MacBook Pro IR test, image retention test, that he says you can test this, but he also says, I don't think this can cause permanent damage, but I can't be sure. So don't hold me responsible for this. So what you do is make the window as large as possible, display the grid for 10 minutes, then switch to gray. This is a lot of work to get screen retention. Screens with image retention will show a faint impression of the grid on the gray background. Are people too picky, or is this really a big problem? Is this really annoying?
I notice it, but it doesn't bother me. But it's completely noticeable, and you can think that there's transparency where none exists. So I can understand why it bothers people.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, these are Mac products we're talking about. We're used to perfection. There's so many times when I'll get like a $500 Windows notebook, and I will note that there is a certain problem that's a little bit annoying, but I'll say, okay, it's a $500 tablet. Also, it's a $500 tablet, $500 notebook, and it's ASUS. So you can, you're not quite so sensitive. But really, when you buy an Apple product, just to not, whether you should or not, you simply expect in your head that everything should be absolutely perfect, and I should be 100% satisfied. Because if you're not satisfied, Apple will try to make you happy.
Yeah, but and the other side, stuff happens. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
It's hard to make a million.
First generation is always problematic.
Yeah. In fact, we've even said that, don't we? So now I see it, but I think it's actually retinal image retention, not screen image retention. So that's one of the problems. Everybody stare for a bit. Let's see if this happens to your TV.
The center of the screen is out of focus for some reason. What the hell?
Okay, everybody, we're going to stare at this for a while, and then I'm going to switch to gray. And even if you're watching on TV, you will, because of your retina, you will see it. See, I see it. So... But maybe, I don't know, maybe I can't, maybe that's not my, oh, you know what? I am seeing it without my retina. So I must, but see, I never even noticed it until I did this. So this is a fall 2013, and I do see the image retention.
A few seconds, because the LEDs are burning, a few seconds is not bad, but mine will linger for minutes, and that's where the problem with the 2012s were. 15 minutes later, you would still see the image.
Well, don't use gray. Everybody, stop doing gray.
Let's see. The Retina the Retina MacBook is a pro level hardware for people who are using it for professional things. There are a lot of graphic designers using Photoshop to do cover art for ska bands.
Yeah, you're right.
You think that No Doubt, you think that Madness, you think that all these other groups, they don't need like reissues. You're gonna need that checkerboard pattern.
Yeah, you're right. I'm trying to find somebody said there's a terminal command that will tell you what monitor you have. Macintosh terminal command, Samsung image retention. That's the Google search, and the answer is Joe supplied a helpful. Here it is. Are you ready? I can't even read you this, and we are not going to put a graphic on the screen because it's so long. We're using the IO-reg command. I'm not even familiar with that, but let's just try it. Let's just try it here. IO-reg. Agreeing to the Xcode Studio requires admin. Please rerun a sudo. So you have to do sudo.
Isn't this like the same problem of like patients coming to doctors? They've diagnosed themselves on the internet with some like dengue fever. And now we're people coming into the Genius Bar saying, I've self-diagnosed this as an LG display produced during early 2013, which is known to have an issue here. And now they have to say, well, no, that's congratulations, excellent use of terminal commands, but that is not an issue. Please go home. Stop bothering us.
So now I have Xcode on here, but I don't think I've ever run it. So let me just run it. Xcode. I agree to the license agreement. Okay. So you need Xcode on your system to use IO-reg. Apparently.
We know too many things and understand too few things. That's our problem as users these days.
Here we go. Color LCD, but I don't even know now how to read this. But
we have data.
Back to the Googles.
I have data. Here's the string. LP 154WT1 SGA1. Which one is that the hardware part? That probably is, right? Should I Google that?
Find out.
Okay. LG. That's an LG display. The LP15 154.
A new version of the red dot, like on the iPhones, that warns the genius that this phone has been exposed to water, and so it's probably not the phone's fault. There's going to be another like software thing to say, okay, well, the user has run sudo commands without any understanding of how sudo commands work. Probably this is not a warranty issue.
Is there a little piece of paper that tells whether you run sudo?
Oh, I'm sorry. You self-diagnosed beyond your technical means. Paper is now green, which means that
I'm going to go in there. I've run IO-reg, and I know I have an LG display in here. In fact, if you'll allow me to look at the replacement units, I would like to go through them and run this command. First, I'll have to install Xcode on each of your machines.
Oh First guy ever thrown out of an Apple store.
just make sure whatever the complaint is, you end it with the magic phrase, and now I want to know what you're going to do about it.
Yeah.
Because that always works.
Let's so I don't know where to put this information so that people at home can try it. But I think you could do what I just did, which was Google terminal command. This is on the Ultimate Apple weblog. Our Retina MacBook displays, blah, blah, blah. And that is, it's IO-reg space dash, blah, blah. There's a grep in there. There's a set in there. It's a good, nice, healthy display of technical expertise.
That's Steve Sandy has some chops.
If your Mac is okay, it will say zeroing out every sector on your hard drive. If it's bad, it will only say reformatting your hard drive. But just wait to get the prompt back before you do anything.
So Web6410 says, Leo, you shouldn't make light of the issue. Sometimes retention can last up to 20 minutes, and people have paid exorbitant amounts of money for their MacBooks.
I agree. Issue, and I'm making light of it.
I agree. I have it. I have it too. I have LG. The good news is you can take it to the Apple Store, and they'll replace it with an unknown display.
Well, do we know they will, or maybe they will?
People have had good luck so far taking it back. They will run a test on it. My understanding is they will run a test on it to see if the retention is beyond whatever tolerances they allow.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, you can always raise the point of fact that Apple hardware costs a lot more money than equivalent hardware on Windows, but that's one of the reasons why you get that markup, because no other place you drive to the mall. You don't even have to say, here's the sudo command I ran. I've proven that I've got the LG display. You can simply say, there's images seem to be burned in, and that makes me unhappy. And what they're going to key in on is the fact that the customer is unhappy. What we can do to put a smile on that face? And I guess oftentimes.
And I guess the other point, which is a very valid point, which is this happened last year, and it's apparently still happening. So on the new ones. So, but that's an awful long time to spend on a topic that is of fairly limited use. So let's move on, if you don't mind. Do we yet know, Mr. Rumor Monger, Rene Ritchie, when I can finally order my iPad Mini with Retina display?
We do not. Apple had their conference call last night, and they stuck to later in November as the date, which probably means that product is coming in so hot, it is all they can do to get a few models into the stores before Christmas.
That's because you think of shortages of Retina, 7.9-inch Retinas?
Yeah, that was a hard product to make. Yeah. I mean, just all around, that was a hard product to make. And Tim Cook said on the call yesterday that he believes it's uncertain or it's unclear whether they're going to have sufficient quantities to satisfy demand over the holidays. So if you do want one, shop early.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's why we want to look for that date, because I want to get online at midnight
Cupertino time.
At Cupertino time and order the damn thing. Okay, let's talk about the earnings call, because he did, if you have your bingo card out, he did say a new product category to come. You mentioned that, Renee, last week, or maybe it was Andy. Somebody said, listen for that phrase. So that sounds like a watch. Or I guess it could be a TV, but I think it's much more likely
it could be a strudel. It
could be a scooter.
Middle here.
Yeah, it could be a scooter. Could be anything, but I think very likely, given everything you know and others know, that it's a watch.
Or at least a wearable fitness item. They've done a lot of hiring from people who are working in fitness products. So whether it's a watch or not, we don't know. But if it's not something you put on your wrist, then I'd be surprised.
He also said it's getting to look a lot like an iPad Christmas. He actually used the phrase iPad Christmas.
He did. He was all in on that. One thing I thought was curious is that a lot of people are really angry they expected Apple to have a new product category by the end of this year, and they're upset it's not out already. Oh. But the thing to me is that if you rush that thing out, you get the Galaxy Gear, and that is not an Apple Watch. It's got some interesting things about it, but that is not an Apple product. And I would much rather Apple does what they usually do, which is, wait and then do that big show and introduce their new thing when they've actually got it ready to ship within a reasonable amount of developer, testing time.
By the way, he said products in product categories. It was plural, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we're going to see exactly how important iOS 7 was. It wasn't just about enhancing the phones that are already there. It was also putting in the infrastructure and putting in the developer support for stuff that has not been announced yet.
If you look at the skills Apple has this is Tim Cook speaking, from hardware, software, and services, and an incredible app ecosystem, these set of things are very, very unique. Of course, unique. I don't know. Okay, I'm not going to go on with that. Andy knows what I'm talking about.
The West Wing reference you're making.
not only he doubles down on very unique, it's very, very unique.
But at the same time, no one likes someone who wants to point out that a tomato is not a vegetable.
I know. Or
Galileo 5.
Thank you.
Be very, very
Sheldon.
pregnant.
We move on.
We obviously believe that we can use our skills, he says, in building other great products that are in categories that represent areas where we do not participate today. That sounds like more than just a watch.
But that's what you say if you're CEO of Apple and you've spent the last 10 years making something like the A7 processor and building up all your software, hardware, and services divisions, because that's what lets you do those kinds of products. And I think he's going to be as non-committal as possible until he's got a product he's really happy about.
Yeah. I mean, the Galaxy Gear is a great example. I think it's kind of a signature product for Samsung, and this is I think that they released two interesting items at the same time. Samsung, the Note 3 and the Galaxy Gear, and they're both, I think, signature Samsung products where nobody had any interest or expressed any desire for a phone that big. And what do you know? It turns out that people love it, and it's a big seller. Great. Then there's the Galaxy Gear, which again nobody indicated an interest in having a wristwatch like that. And well, what do you know? It turns out that nobody does have an interest in a watch like that because the return rate on these things is astronomical. But you roll the dice. Sometimes you get. I don't know enough about dice games to know what the bad number is. But let's just say the one that lands your little brother on the sorry part of the game.
That's why I'm glad we have both Apple and Samsung, because Apple is incredibly conservative with new product rollout, and Samsung will just throw anything away. And as someone who loves technology, I want to see all those crazy products because the ones that work, like the Galaxy Note, will be really interesting.
So Nilay Patel does a great job on the verge of a chronology of all of the pronouncements Tim has made along these lines. In October 2011, he mentions the Steve Jobs biography. February 2012, Cook says during the Goldman Sachs conference, Apple doesn't do hobbies as a general rule and needs something more main market. September 2012, television, no. December 2012, on Rock Center with Brian Williams, an area of an intense interest. And he's mentioned products and categories several times now. So this is
pulling threads.
Yeah, literal. Boy, talking about pulling threads. Wow. Wow.
We can just wait for them to do what they're going to do.
Let's just see. We'll just see.
It is likely Apple will introduce something new at some point, given their past history.
It's not like the iPad Mini is not an interesting product. It's not like the iPad Air, not an interesting product. It's not as though we've got lots of things we can actually go and put our hands on and talk about. That's.
We're going to talk about iOS 7 and the Wi-Fi problem in just a bit. But first, a word from Squarespace.com, the all-in-one platform, hosting plus software that makes it really easy to make your own professional website, your own blog, your portfolio if you're an artist or a photographer, and even now an online store, which is really exciting. Squarespace is always improving things. New features come along. And the nice thing about the fact that you're using Squarespace for both hosting and software is when a new feature comes along, you get it. You don't have to go out and upgrade it. Similarly, security patches, if there are any, are applied automatically. So you don't have to constantly, I have to, with WordPress, I still maintain a WordPress blog. I don't know why. And I have to constantly upgrade it. It's like every week I have to say, oh, there's a new WordPress. Oh, beautiful templates, by the way, at Squarespace.com. They've won numerous design awards. It's easy to use, but of course, if you want some help, Squarespace has an amazing support team, 24/7. They just won a Golden Stevie for outstanding service. The price is right, too. In fact, if I click the price menu item, you may be surprised. What you find may surprise you. As little as $8 a month, which is really down there with the budget hosting companies. But there's nothing budget about this. I think a lot of you, and certainly I, would prefer the $16 a month. That's when you buy the year plan. That gives you unlimited bandwidth. That means you never get a bandwidth bill. I don't know of any other provider that does something like that. Unlimited pages, unlimited galleries, unlimited blogs, unlimited storage, unlimited contributors. You get access to a developer platform. You don't need to be a developer to use Squarespace, I hasten to say. With their drag-and-drop functionality, you can do everything you want, make it look exactly, customize it exactly as you wish, add links to all the social media, everything you want. But if you are a developer, if you like JavaScript, CSS, that kind of thing, HTML5, they've got a really nice developer platform. And now, look at this third column, commerce. This is the newest part of Squarespace I'm so excited about. Every existing Squarespace template will work with this. You can sell physical or digital media, like MP3s or CDs, books or ebooks. A single interface for order management, which adds the capability for you. This is all built in. And wait till you hear the price on this. Tracking orders, customizable customer email updates. You can print shipping labels. You can create coupons. They'll help you track inventory and taxes. It's also global. It's not only in the U.S., but your store will be in the U.K., Canada, Australia, Belgium, France, Germany, Ireland, the Netherlands, and Spain. And best of all of this, $24 a month when you buy the annual plan. There's no transaction fees. That's the cost, and that's unbelievable. That's unheard of. You can start up right now. No credit card needed. Just visit squarespace.com and click the Get Started button. You'll choose a template. You can even import your existing content from Most of the major blogs, they support all the APIs. Import and export always available, which means you're never trapped. And if you decide to sign up after your trial, use our offer code MacBreak10 and you'll get 10% off. And show your support, of course, for MacBreak Weekly. MacBreak10, the offer code. I think everybody knows how much we love Squarespace. We use it for our own Inside Twit blog. Squarespace.com. Try it free, and if you decide to buy MacBreak 10. Larry Lessig, one of our favorite constitutional experts. He's was at Stanford, now he's back at Harvard. And he brought his blog back a couple of weeks ago. He hadn't blogged in quite a while. Just in time to bitch about iOS 7. He says, I upgraded my iPhone to iOS 7.03. It killed Wi-Fi. A lot of people are complaining about this. I have not had that problem. I went to the Apple site to see what the community had to say. Seems there are lots of people with the same problem. I tried all the recommended fixes, including reinstalling the system software, restoring from a backup. Nothing worked. Wi-Fi came back for an hour. It's gone again. But here's the problem. He says Apple is not responding to comments, which leads its users, and again, people who are volunteering their time to help lower Apple's customer support costs, to express on these forums, to express increasing exasperation at the unanswered problems. So now this is where the constitutional lawyer leaps to the fray, because he made a comment. He tried to post a question to another post asking whether Apple indeed scrubbed comments. In other words, were they censoring the community, which they have the right to do. It is, after all, on an Apple server at apple.com. He posted, he was inquiring about the warranty, and somebody made a claim and got a new one and said persevere, and Larry wanted to comment. Then he noted the comment had been deleted, so he reposted it. Imagine if we had the same warranty rights in America that Europeans have in Europe. But then, to my utterly naive astonishment, says Larry Lessig, Apple removed my comment, sending an email to me. Recently, you posted a poll or petition in the Apple support communities. We understand your desire to share experiences in your topic, but because these posts are not allowed on our forums, we have removed it. They are intended for technical questions that can be answered by the community. He goes on to say, well, what exactly is the valid objection here? This is a community site. Apple's not responding. People are frustrated. They talk about the warranties and recourse. When did it become inappropriate to inform people about legally protected rights related to technical issues? So, hey, Apple, he says, if you want the free help given by members of your community, treat them with respect. Even something as simple as a thanks for the comments, we're looking into it, would be a really cheap way to show that respect. And a policy against scrubbing comments offering people completely legitimate advice for dealing with their technical problems would be one more, although admittedly that's less cheap. And then, of course, he invokes the memory of Steve Jobs.
Who would not only have erased the comment, but sandblasted it.
Yeah, I think Larry probably is a little bit pie-eyed on that one. But actually, he says, remember when Steve Jobs was at the helm, many of us were willing to cut the genius some slack. That willingness is, let's say, waning. Now, Larry has a bully pulpit. And I just reread the entire blog post. Is what he says legitimate? Is it a real problem? We've heard about this kind of scrubbing before.
I love Larry Lessig, but it's amazing to me when people think that they've discovered these things that have been going on for years for the first time.
Right.
It's exactly what you said. Apple is very careful with their discussion forums. They let a lot of people talk, but there are issues that they believe might come back and bite them in the ass later, and they're very careful to remove those. Right. Because the last thing that they need is someone to say, I saw on the Apple discussion forums that you honored all these warranties. And, and it's there to be a service. It's not there to be something that gets them class action lawsuits eventually.
Yeah. Also, I mean, this is a little bit like complaining. This is a little bit like complaining that you're trying to unionize the 1,000 workers at your factory, and the factory won't let you use the factory floor as a meeting hall for this action. I mean, which is, and you can debate whether the classy thing, what the classy thing to do or the not classy thing would be to do. That's not an objective sort of determination. But the fact is, this is Apple's forum. They can set their own rules. And I think that if they want to limit discussion to something that they feel is focused towards one single goal, which is we're not here to be a community of people who've been using the Mac for 10 years or using the iPhone for 3 or 4 years as a meeting house for whatever they want to talk about. This is for the people who just broke the shrink wrap on their first iPhone a week ago and don't know how to get this sort of syncing service working. They want to find they also want to find an open discussion so that people can go ahead and say that, gee, I don't know why Apple isn't addressing this, but I've been having this problem for 3 or 4 weeks. It is still valuable to the consumer that they know that they're not the only people who've been having this problem, and even people who've been using an iPhone for 2 years have been having this problem. So that's valuable too. But to insist on unlimited discussion on any topic, that's just not realistic. I mean, it's good. It's good that someone with his voice and his rational point of view is raising this point again, because I think that is as you said, it's sort of like the other edge of the sword. If Apple is going to host this forum to allow the community to essentially do a lot of like frontline tech support for its own products, they have to accept that sometimes these people are going to say things that Apple doesn't like. But nonetheless, like Renee said, I mean, they have the ability to limit discussion in any way that they want. If they ever restrict it in such a way as to be absolutely hornswogglingly obnoxious, that will bite them in the butt in ways that none of us can possibly imagine. For now, everybody seems to be okay with the terms of service, so to speak, that have been established.
And the last point that I thought was compelling is that these discussions also sometimes take away the actual problems people are having. Wi-Fi issues have plagued Apple customers on iOS devices. Every time there's a new iPad, every time there's a new version of iOS, this Wi-Fi issue comes back. I don't know why they have so much trouble with Wi-Fi, but it's obvious that they do. And I would just encourage people to go to Apple. If they can't solve it using any of the tips there or anything they find on Google, go to an Apple store and pull the Steve Jobs. This device is supposed to have Wi-Fi. Why does it not have it? And just put it down on the table.
Yeah, that's always the smartest thing. Don't try to diagnose your own problem either. Just jumping back to this and what we were saying earlier. Don't just say this. I expect it to do this. It doesn't do that. What's the problem? That's always the most successful avenue of getting tech support from Apple.
Yeah. I'm a little sympathetic with Larry, but it reminds me also of emails that I get almost every day from people who say, I was in your chat room and I got kicked out for saying X. And I do understand that when you are maintaining a community and there's a certain way you want that community to be, you have to be kind of ruthless in maintaining that community. It is not as if there are not other third-party discussion forums where you can go. So I think it's not unreasonable for Apple to say, well, look, this is the official Apple discussion forum, so we're going to be a little bit aggressive in making it be a certain way, precisely for what you said, Andy. Because they don't want people to say, well, look, it says right here on the official Apple forums that Apple does this.
Yeah, I think it was Renee who said that, but
Renee.
I mean, the other thing that should be at least mentioned is that, again, while we really should be vigilant against mistaking Apple for a non-profit company that gives out free surfing lessons and teaches you how to make granola and how to produce a sustainable architecture. They are a large corporation. They have an immense amount of power, which they could abuse in horrific ways if they chose to do so. The other thing that needs to be said, though, is that every time we've had legitimate concerns. So much they give us at least an opportunity a year to be legitimately concerned about what they're up to. And I keep rewinding back to when they started the App Store and started putting so many controls on what we will tolerate if you want to publish software for the Mac and publish software for iOS devices. And although there were a lot of hiccups to begin with, it's true that Google apparently had little difficulty in getting apps that enhance Google services that compete with Apple services into the App Store. Amazon has had no problem getting updated versions of the Kindle app, and every time that it looked like Apple might be doing something to sort of slap them down and make the Kindle solution not as attractive as the iBook solution, it turns out it was simply an extension of a policy that was affecting all developers. So, although don't love blindly, you should. Whenever I have those concerns, I have to think that no, this isn't Facebook. They haven't really screwed me over in any way, shape, or form. Again, eternal vigilance is the cost of liberty, but still, it has to be said that Apple has had a really, really good track record in not abusing our trust.
All right, we'll move on. Larry deserves, the attention because he's Larry, and I love him.
Yeah, because Larry isn't a blowhard, and he's not a bozo. He knows what he's talking about, and when he speaks very thoughtfully. So, although this isn't something we've never heard before, it was valuable to hear it from his perspective and hear how he would choose to elucidate it. So that was I thought it was a very valuable blog post.
And it's anybody who thinks Apple doesn't make mistakes is really paying attention.
Has not been an Apple user for very damn long.
Yeah, and I think though that you said something that I think really highlights the real problem here, which is people have a different and Gil Amelio observed this. People have a very different relationship with Apple than they do with any other company. There's this sense that Apple somehow is your friend. It is it goes back to the early days when Apple they were the rebels fighting against the Big Brother 1984 gray IBM types.
The crazy ones. The
crazy ones. And, I was around then, and I had that kind of feeling of loyalty, too. But it would probably behoove us to remember that that's not actually true. It's just a company.
They believe deeply in every principle that they speak of openly. That's why I don't believe that the video that they used to start off WWDC and their press event last week was schmaltzy in any way. I do believe they believe in all those things, but I also believe that they believe in making money. And if there is a way that they can, they don't believe that in order to succeed, other companies can have to fail. But what's better than succeeding at the cost of your competitors? I'm sure that at some point some bottle of something is opened and drunk with a certain amount of pride that they can't share with anybody else. I'm sure that happens.
Oh yeah, they're a real profit-making enterprise.
I can't tell you why there will be free donuts at all break stations for the next 3 days. Just enjoy the free donuts and think of those donuts as you drive past a Microsoft Surface RT bus ad.
Hey, let's take a break. We kind of skimmed over some of the comments from Tim Cook in the earnings call, but we should talk about the actual results of the earnings call in just a second. But first, I want to tell you about a brand new app from our great friends at Smile Software. It's PDFpen Scan Plus. It's a scanning and OCR app for your iPhone and your iPad. You have such great cameras, even in the iPad, especially the new iPads now, that really you've got a scanner in your pocket. And I've done this so many times. I did it just the other day. I was I needed to submit some pay stubs. And I didn't have a scanner to hand, so I used the iPhone, took a picture. I used the iPhone because I had the best camera. Took a picture, and it's fabulous. One-touch scanning directly from your iPhone or your iPad. You can scan multiple pages into a single document. You can use OCR to convert those scans into searchable PDFs. The app does the OCR, so it's not uploading to the server, so your confidentiality is preserved, plus you don't have to be connected. Here's an example. If you're watching the video, the OCR supports 16 languages. It's a great companion if you use PDFpen, which we've talked about so much for iPad and iPhone. And here's the best part. Right now, there's a sale on. Because they're introducing this new product, PDFpen Scan Plus, you can get it for $4.99. Run, do not walk to your app store on your iPhone or your iPad. $4.99 for a product like this is a really, and I'm telling you, you will use it a lot. And because it's from Smile, it's going to really do the job. It's going to do it well, and they're going to continually upgrade it and improve it. They do it so often. I invite you to go to smilesoftware.com/MacBreak if you want to know more about it. They've got videos and so forth, and a link to the App Store. David Sparks with his traditional, really excellent video on how it works. You can see all the features. And I've got to tell you, don't waste any time. At $4.99, you're going to want this right now, and it's not going to last long. I think the OCR alone is fantastic. I've always used the iPhone to take pictures of documents to store like receipts and stuff, but now having that OCR in there, that is really sweet.
Unbelievably good.
Yeah. I don't have my iPhone here, or I would show you. It's really awesome. Get it, $4.99. What a deal! Such a deal! Thank you, Smile. Smile Software, PDFpen Scan Plus. And there's a plus sign. I bet if you search for Scan Plus. Let me try this. There's this kind of little-known trick. appstore.com/ Let me just see. You can often do appstore.com and the name of an app, but the search is a little funky. So that did not work. Let me try. Because what it does is appstore.com links to the Apple search. I presume that's an Apple feature. Could be a third party doing it. Let me do Smile. Smile software. That might find all the Smile stuff. Apple's got to work on the search in the App Store.
Yes.
Somewhat incomprehensible.
It's not their forte.
Not.
This is one of those complaints about Apple screwing up that we referenced earlier.
It goes on, continues.
Really good hard search needs a look.
It's like sometimes when you find a problem or find a fault, you should be happy because that demonstrates that faults are being looked for and that your hardware for finding them is in fact working perfectly. And so the things that you trust that have been validated.
Now, Apple had its Q4 fourth quarter conference call, and depending who you read, it was either a great quarter or not such a great quarter. I think there's a lot of room for interpretation. This quarter only includes a little part of the iPhone 5S sales. Yet that was enough to kind of turn the graph to a U on sales. So modest, TechCrunch said, modest reacceleration after 3 quarters in a row of slumping growth.
After 3 quarters of no profits, of no products, the first new product returns them to.
Yeah, we've seen this before, have we not?
Every time.
It's a U. If you look at a graph of Apple earnings, it's U.
And iPad was flat and Mac was flat, but everyone was waiting for the new iPads and everyone was waiting for the Haswell Macs. It's not.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, those who look at Apple's profit margins might legitimately be a little bit concerned, right?
Tim Cook did a really good job of explaining that, in that Apple's profit margins are being pushed on both ends right now because they're making products like the iPad Air and the Retina iPad, which increase their costs. Those are much more expensive products to make. But at the same time, they are reducing prices or holding prices for more expensive products. So it costs them more to make, and they're not selling them at the same amount of profit they used to, which puts pressure on their margins, and that really does bother some people in Wall Street. They're also doing this subscription accounting for more of their stuff now. I think $900 million more. That lets them defer. I think they said it was 2 years for an iPhone and 4 years for a Mac, but it means they can account for this free Mavericks and free iWorks. And all of that, because margin is being deferred along with everything else. I think they said a dollar-to-dollar rate. It creates a perception, which some people equate with reality. And, that's absolutely their right to do so. But it does make the analysis, I think, more nuanced than a lot of websites are reporting.
It's off Apple's stock price. Apple's stock price is off about $14 since the announcement, but it's still at $521. I mean, it's still well over 500. And let's hasten to say it's not that Apple didn't make money. They made a lot of money, $7.5 billion.
All the money.
Yeah. So it's not like it's just that they didn't make their profit margin wasn't as high as it has been in the past. $37.5 billion in revenue, $7.5 billion net profit. That's $8.26 per share, and it is a decline of net profit of 8.6% from this time last year. So that's the thing that concerns people, I guess. But you just explained it, I think, fairly well. The margins are shrinking. Dividends are the same, right? 4.7% declining earnings per share.
The big difficulty every time there's one of these earnings calls is that you have 2 different teams of analysts who are looking at these numbers. You have one team that has the broader perspective of Apple as a technology company who does not necessarily have the expertise and looking at really grinding down these business numbers. And so they might be picking apart as, look at that. Look how few. I think this chart is, or this number is proving that Apple's share of desktops is now sort of grinding down, and that line demonstrates this, that, the other. Or there are Apple fans who are going to look at another number and saying, yes, but look at this graph and how well that does, without the ability to look at the entire base of numbers and evaluate Apple as though it were any other company who are announcing these results. And the other group of people are the people who are just like, again, the Sheldon Coopers, who are just financial analysts who are looking at numbers, who who do have a complete understanding of that, and who will say that, oh, it's troubling that that they're not making as much money on each product as they were before. It's troubling that they have not announced a new product space in this amount of time, and they're wrong because they could benefit from looking at the forest and seeing that Apple is in the business of making insanely popular products that people love and people keep buying, even if their last item was the exact same product before. And it doesn't necessarily matter so much that this number, you're right, this graph does not look as flat as it should be, or as pointy as it should be, or as curvy in the right place as it should be, so long as they are setting themselves up for the right thing, the right product line in 2 or 3 years from now. So that's why I do have the benefit of not being a business reporter, but nonetheless, I always have to sort of take 3 steps back from any conclusion I'm likely to draw from anything that I see in these reports. There's some things that I kind of look at and say, gee, isn't that kind of interesting, or shouldn't I follow up on that? But there's always those 3 tablespoons full of remember thou art mortal, remember thou art mortal, remember that you you passed your math classes, but you never took a post-grad course that you had that didn't totally befuddle you. So don't think that you know anything about this. And I think that there are a lot of commentators that should really be measured in the conclusions they're going to draw from these numbers.
37% profit margin ain't bad. I'd take it.
Yeah.
And these are the numbers that we mortals, non-investors, should probably pay attention to, which is sales figures. And mostly about the trend. iPod sales down 35%. Not a surprise. They did not announce, I don't know if we really mentioned this, but they did not announce a new iPod this year.
And they gave you a space gray, just like 2 years ago they gave you white.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think iPod is an important category anymore. It's an interesting...
Buried. It's at the bottom of the press release. It's not even in the meat anymore.
Right.
Max,
go ahead.
And remember that Apple is famous for cutting loose any product line that's not really setting the world on fire. So I think that product line is Geschwinkto soon.
Yeah. I mean, you can you get an iPhone. I think losing the iPod Touch would be a deal, not a good thing, because there are a lot of people.
Sales are so far down.
I guess nobody's buying it. But I thought for kids, I don't know.
They're getting iPad minis or iPhone 5Cs
exactly.
now.
Yeah, you get them a mini. I guess you're right. Yeah. Mac sales. This might be more.
Fills that role.
This might be of more concern if you're a truck driver. Mac sales down 7%.
No new products until WWDC, and that was only the Airs. So we'll see what the Mac sales are like when the new MacBook Pros and the new iMacs and the new Mac Pro hit the market.
Okay. iPad sales flat, and that's because there's new iPads, obviously. This is year over year. iTunes and software revenues up 22%. That looks good on the bottom
Horace
line.
Dedia tweeted out that Apple made more money off accessories than Motorola made off hardware last time.
5% increase in accessory sales. Apple finally recognized that accessory. Why should everybody else be making money making cases? That's such a high profit margin. iPhone 5S sales, 5C sales too, for that matter, had only been on for a couple of weeks in this quarter, and yet accounted for 52% of Apple's overall sales. So that's why you wait for a new product to really look at this. In fact, I think we said last week or the week before that it's going to be the next quarter, Q1, that will be the quarter to watch. As
iPad
always,
Christmas, Leo. iPad Christmas.
Yeah, it's going to be, and that's what Tim's response to all this was. Well, just stay tuned. It's going to be an iPad Christmas. Is it, though? I mean, aren't tablet sales way up from other companies? Perhaps
Benedict Evans had an awesome post on this where he actually went and tried to find out where all these tablet sales are originating from. And he said you mostly have the iPad that people are buying to use as a tablet. Then you have a plethora of $50 to $100 Android tablets, mostly sold in China or Asia, that people are using to watch primarily video. And that's why you don't get web usage or other usage statistics off of them. So those are such different markets that at least he contends that they should be measured separately. And that's why you see Apple's market share not reflective of their usage share.
What was, I saw the number and I'm trying to remember what it was. I think 160 million tablets sold in this quarter. Something like that. It was a large number.
Ridiculous amount.
Yeah. So somebody's buying tablets. I imagine that the Kindle Fire is a big one, right? Nexus, perhaps.
Kindle Fire is U.S. Most of the other tablets do not sell well. Yeah, because the Kindle is very few markets. Google is not historically good at pushing their own hardware. I mean, it's popular, but they just don't have retail. They don't have a lot of other things. So it's mostly iPads and these really, really cheap black slab Android tablets.
Yeah. That's why I've always thought that Apple usually kicks off every media event with that number of, hey, we have 80% of all usage out there of tablets worldwide. I really do think they should break that number apart and look at how people are using those tablets. I think that I got into one of those days on Twitter when I had to say, okay, I'm going to turn off Twitter for the rest of the day now because every time you try, it seems as though it's very difficult to defend the statement that there are other mini tablets out there that are serving purposes that are different from the purposes that the iPad mini serves. And people will not come back with, well, here's how well the iPad mini performs in the user's hands versus a Kindle Fire tablet versus a Google Nexus tablet. They always say, well, here's the international sales numbers, and then not replying, but thinking, yeah, but how about you break it down by actual countries in which both devices are readily available? It's just such a complicated metric that it's hard to predict a winner or simply say that this is the best tablet out there, because especially when you look at these 7-inch, these mini tablet forms, these guys, these makers of these tablets are not making them for the same markets. They know exactly whose money they want to get, and they're going after those wallets. So,
yeah, I agree with Andy.
Tim Cook said iPads are doing well in one category better than anybody else: education. They said, Tim said iPads make up 94% of the market for tablets in education. 94%.
Those are those boxes of 20 iPad 2s. That's where those are going.
Yeah, there's the iPad 2 market.
Yep.
Especially if you feel that schools are price sensitive and you're afraid they might look at a Nexus 7 or something like that, which is only $229. Hey, yeah. $299. Or is it $399?
But also
$299, right?
That's $299 for the mini. But okay. Really, it's so hard to make that case when you're trying. Even if you're trying to. Sorry, rewind, playback. It's so hard to make that case of any other tablet but iOS for education. I mean, this is one area in which if you don't have the apps and you don't have the ability to build a custom app for the purpose for the educational track that you're supporting it for, there's just no point in going for a Nexus tablet. There's certainly no point in going for a Kindle tablet, which is designed to be bought in groups of one at a time for individual consumers. Right now, the only company that's doing anything that's an attractive option for school systems is Apple.
And their management stuff is pretty good for, I mean, it's not great, but it's pretty good for schools and enterprise at that level too. And you can provision vast amounts of devices and put vast amounts of apps on them fairly easily.
Yeah, you can buy carts that let you administer 20 of them at a time, like a massive toaster factory. There's just no. It's so hard to make that use case. So the only other option when I would talk to educators about moving into tablets and moving into multi-touch devices, the only option that is even remotely attractive to them is Windows. And that's not because they think it's necessarily better, but because it's very, very easy in every single school system and every single department to find people who are trained up in administrating Windows clients. And also there's a lot of experience in how to prevent 100 arbitrary users that you're giving these tablets to into getting into mischief. But even that's not a preferred device. Everybody, if they're buying tablets, they're buying iPads.
Yeah. iBookery asked in the chat room a great question. Wouldn't it be great if there were a HyperCard-like program for the iPad that teachers could use to create their own courseware and stuff? Is there such a thing?
I don't want to say iTunes author. I'm really trying hard not to say iTunes. iBooks author. Sorry.
iBooks author.
FileMaker is the closest thing they've got to that, and I do know some teachers that are using it for that purposes. But it's
nothing's as good as HyperCard. HyperCard.
I agree with that. I mean, it's like wouldn't that would be the most interesting app you could possibly get? Because it's just not only for what it could actually do, but because the way it presented itself to the user. It didn't say, here's a programming language developed backed by a scripting thing for presentation. Here is a stack of cards. If all you want to do is create and type a stack of recipes that have no relationship to each other, we will let you do that. If at one point you decide that you would like to easily navigate, we will make it very easy for you to navigate. And then you learn to put scripts behind those buttons. And then it's just like alien pods that have taken over your brain. You have been turned into a programmer without your will, knowledge, or intent. So I think the closest thing that we have to that right now is probably Keynote, believe it or not, because there's so much interactivity that you can explore, you can figure out in that if you want to apply yourself. But
not as easy though. Even my dad did a Hypercard stack, Darwin's Voyages of the Beagle, and he's a professor, and it was great It was great way to do curricula without being a programmer. I think this would be a great effort. Some skunk works at Apple somewhere in Cupertino. Get just 5, maybe 4, maybe 3, maybe 1 great programmer, and just start working on that. It'd be such a good thing to add to an education platform.
Do you think maybe they've just sort of internally or unofficially defined Hypercard type stuff as a pro app sort of thing, where they're not? Well, but I'm saying that in terms of creating populist software, they putting creative people who are non-programmers and giving them the ability to create software-like things. I do think that they say that we've got 2 products. Before that, we've got Xcode for people who want to enter with intent. And then there are apps like iBooks Author and apps like Keynote that if you don't want to have that burden of learning, we will give you tools that let you sort of fake the sort of thing you want to do. Maybe Hypercard is sort of in that middle, because truth be told, unless Apple really believed in this product, where it's not just something they're going to put out there to maybe fill in a blank in their product line, but someone there believes passionately that this is going to be a defining moment for the iPad and for the future of Apple, they could easily create something that will let you do things that are not quite as slick as what you could do in Keynote if you spent that same amount of time and effort and learning into developing it, and would never, ever, ever let you do something as flexible as what you could do with Xcode. And right now they are saying that they're at least making the statement that it is not that difficult to learn how to build apps in Xcode.
It's not Hypercard easy though.
It's not nowhere near that, but maybe they believe that it's like there's. I've always thought that there's. I've got room in my life for 2 different kinds of burgers. For the cheap drive-through greasy sack of burgers and fries that cost you $5, but delivers you carbohydrates, sugar, and protein and salt in quantities that you're programmed to like, and costs you next to nothing. I've got a purpose for that. Or going to that burger place that charges you maybe $12, $13, $14, sometimes even $20 for a burger, but it's grass-fed beef, and they've got these 3 different kinds of cheeses on it, and they source their own bacon. And it's the most delicious thing ever. Right? I don't have any use whatsoever for a Five Guys burger. For me, it's like, okay, it's not good enough to be a great burger. It's not cheap enough to be a casual burger. I have no use for you in my life. It's possible that, at least from Apple's point of view, Hypercard is the Five Guys burger. No point to it, no use for it. Why bother with it?
I think if I were the problem is that young folks today do not remember Hypercard or never probably encountered it. But if I were a 22-year-old computer science graduate, adept in JavaScript and HTML5 technologies, I would right now run out and make a Hypercard for HTML5. Because that'd be totally cross-platform, and boy, I think the opportunity is limitless.
Twit Army, make it happen.
One smart, comp sci graduate could do it. It'd be a great startup, easy pitch to venture capitalists who remember Hypercard.
But would Apple allow it into the App Store? It would.
No, that's why you do it as HTML5. It's not an app. You do it as HTML5. You do it in Safari.
Oh, so build it on the web, deploy it on the web, and use because there's Safari actually allows so much untapped potential for creating user interfaces that you can actually do that quite well.
Yep. This is people who do remember Mist, but probably have forgotten that that's written in Hypercard. This was the predecessor, Cyan's predecessor to Mist. It was called the Manhole. Do you remember this? Very Mist-like. This also was done in Hypercard. Now, the thing you could do in Hypercard is you could create binary blobs with a programming language that you would add to it. I forgot the name of. They were called
Hyperscript.
No, not Hyperscript.
Hypertalk.
No. You could actually do it in C or C++.
Okay. Got it.
And add it as an X. I can't remember what it was called, but an extension is in effect a binary extension. I'm sure that's what the Miller brothers did with this.
They had plugins, yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, Danny Goodman's Hypercard Bible.
Yeah, Danny Goodman, remember that? Classic.
Somewhere there are a few programming books that I will never throw away. One is my Beneath Apple DOS and Beneath Apple Pro DOS, and the other one is Danny Goodman's book on Hypercard, because I have such an emotional attachment to this book that I carried everywhere and marked up everywhere, and they've got food stains of every job, the cafeteria in every job that I had when Hypercard was out.
I'm telling you, there's some kid out there you're watching right now. Do a little research, find out what Hypercard was, written by the immortal Bill Atkinson, one of the greatest programmers who ever lived, all by himself, and think about that kind of functionality, what today's world would need, an easy to use kind of way to build. It's not, I don't want to say apps, because it's not apps, because it's really stack based. But if you could make that in HTML5, I'm telling you, billions.
Well, actually, didn't Google release something a couple of weeks ago that was an app for creating HTML5 animation and interactivity? and that was actually
they released so much stuff you can't keep track of it. This morning, they basically said, "Give us all your pictures from now on forever." And the
other scary thing though is that we imagine that the kids today require something as clear and as uncluttered as Hypercard in order to get into programming. And goodness, the ages of people that who actually learn Objective-C and actually learn how to do something productive in Xcode, it's like the age drops by 10 months every single year. And I'm meeting people who are 9, 10 years old who are showing me a credible iOS app. It's not just, it's not a Hello World app. It's not a flashlight app. It actually does something.
Finish won an Apple Design Award this year. And I forget how old Ryan is, but he must be in high school.
Who's this?
The app Finish. It helps you do project planning for school, like for homework and things like that. And it won the Apple Design Award this year. And I'm sure Ryan must be, in his, it feels like he must be 12. I know he's not 12, but that's what it feels like.
By Basil Limited, this one?
Yes.
2013 Apple Design winner. I wonder if he did it in straight up Xcode C plus Objective-C, or if he had used one of those,
or used a Java or something else.
Yeah, that is pretty. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
that is pretty.
So it's maybe what we're advocating is that I think the teens today, they should actually make bicycles with training wheels so they could learn, and meanwhile they're zipping by on these super bikes. See you, Grandpa.
I
couldn't ride one of those. When
So
we got Xcode grams. We're fine.
Exactly.
They are 16 years old.
Yes.
Michael Hansen and Ryan Orbuck, 16 years old. And that's the first time they ever wore a tie, right there.
They look very. They didn't get the memo that you're allowed to wear T-shirts. It's fine. Oh, they're on Fox.
They're on Fox. They had to wear a tie.
No. I think I don't want to presume, but I can totally see them saying, "Mom, you're going to look like dorks. You are going to be on television, Mister. You are wearing your grandpa and your grandma are going to be staying up to watch you. You're going to be wearing a tie."
Clayton
it's Clayton doing the interview. Here is a very dapper fella.
Yes.
So I would wear a tie. If I knew Clayton Morris was interviewing me, I'd wear a tie. He wears those British collars. I mean, he's very dapper.
There you go.
Very attractive man. Look at him.
Yes.
He's like a male model.
You can't stare directly at him. It's like the sun.
Yeah, I have to just look away. Glance quickly at him. We love you, Clayton. We just like to tease you. Let's take a break. Come back. Lots more to talk about. We also have our picks of the week. I'll tell you, let's start our picks of the week, you guys, by you picking, each of you, a story that we haven't, because there's still quite a few stories in the rundown that maybe you would like to talk about. I will talk about the fact that my iOS 7.0.3 5S iPhone reboots a lot.
Does it reboot or respring, Leo?
It reboots, and I can tell you why. It does respring as well. Respring is restarting Springboard.
Yeah.
But the reason I know it does a reboot is because the first time after a restart, you try to use the fingerprint reader, it says, no, you have to enter your code. And that happens to me several times a day all of a sudden. So it's I don't know why, but it's rebooting when I'm not around.
Don't you dare go to Apple Discussions to talk about it. Don't you dare.
I can make it happen by plugging it in to my my MacBook Retina with iTunes running. When iTunes is running and it's plugged in and iTunes, of course, launches, it reboots. It reboots randomly and not randomly, it continually reboots. 703, yes.
7.1, hurry up.
I should bring it in, huh? I should just say, hey, it's rebooting. Would I have to demonstrate it if I brought it to the Apple Store, or would they just go?
I would try reinstalling first, and then if it's
just do a DFU?
Yeah. Or not even a DFU, just a clean install. This is why we can't have nice software, Leo.
I don't want to. That's a lot of work.
Think of it as respawning. Think of it as you could have had a dead phone, but then it went back to the respawn point.
But I can't back up and restore. I have to do it, rebuild by hand, right?
You can try the easy way first. Just reinstall it, and then when you get frustrated again...
I spent so much time getting everything into folders, so I only have 2 pages on my Springboard. I have
time to spring clean. You can get rid of apps until you need them again.
I did that when I got the 5S.
Yeah.
Now you have 2 pages of folders again.
Should I just wait for 704 and then see?
7.1. It shouldn't be too much longer. It's in pretty good testing.
Just around the corner? Okay.
That's been a pretty fast velocity for dot updates on 7. Not surprising given how big it was.
I think it's because of a lot of problems.
Well, it was new. I mean, they had, compared to other iOS builds, it really started in November instead of back in June. So
yeah,
it came in hot.
Let us take a break and talk about Shutterstock.com, the world's most amazing website for royalty-free stock images. I like just checking. Let me just see, because the copy says 28 million high-quality stock photos. The copy is out of date almost invariably. Yes, now it is 30.5 million royalty-free stock images. That's because they added almost 200,000 this week alone. There's always new stuff at Shutterstock. And what I love about Shutterstock is their very powerful search engine, which allows you to find not only images, but you can modify the noun. Like, okay, so I'm going to search for airplane. So then it'll give me some airplane images. But I could say upside down airplane, for instance. Will that work? Because sometimes you really don't want to. Yeah, these are all upside down airplanes. I love that. Now, if you want to play with Shutterstock like this, it's fun, and you don't have to even give them a credit card. You could just make a free account. That way, not only can you search and have lots of fun doing it. Actually, you can search even without the account, but after a few searches, it says make an account. So go ahead and do that, because then you could put those images in light boxes, which is nice, because that means you could save them for future reference, for inspiration, or even share them with colleagues. When you decide you want to buy an image, you can buy individual image packs or a monthly subscription. That's the one we have, the 25 images a day. That's great for any publication. That's the standard subscription. You can download any image in any size. You pay one price, which is really fabulous. The iPad app, if you haven't played with it, is beautiful. I mean, it's like 500 pixels or something. It's beautiful image after image, because these images are taken by some of the best photographers, artists. There's also, click the footage tab. I think people sometimes forget to do this. Right at the top, it says photos, but next to it says footage, and there's a lot of video as well, 1.3 million royalty-free stock videos in super high quality. They have a featured clip every week, just as they have a featured photo that you can download for free. This is our featured clip today. Little girl running across the wheat field at sunset with a shot with a high-speed camera. So I can say speed it up. I can say slow it down. Let's go at normal speed. This is really gorgeous stuff. Shutterstock, by the way, you want a little girl in a red dress? Oh, sorry, we got that too. You want an unhappy little girl. You want a scared little girl. Whatever you want, Shutterstock's got it. Shutterstock.com. When you do decide to buy, we're going to give you a great deal, 25% off your new account when you use the offer code MacBreak1013, because we are in the month of October, 1013. MacBreak 1013, all one word, for 25% off your new account. Shutterstock.com. through the field. The children of the corn. I don't know. There's a lot of those images. I don't know if it's the same guy or by some of the keywords on this: arms outstretched, arms raised, cheerful, child, childhood, children only, comfortable, crop, cross, cultivated land, curly hair, enjoyment, field, freedom, full length, fun, gold, happiness, healthy lifestyle. I love it. Enjoy your healthy lifestyle. Eat more Captain Crunch, made from fine grains like these. I love my Captain Crunch.
Crunchily delicious.
Globocam's genetically modified wheats are feeding more children worldwide.
That's more likely. That's more likely, right?
Dwarf wheat.
You did an article on iMore. Was it you or somebody else on iMore who about the iWork apps? A big step back in workflow automation. You know why? Yeah. This is annoying. Peter Cohen pinpointed, I think, a very big problem. They took out AppleScript.
They sort of didn't add it. So what happened is the code for iWork is really old. It's like, as far as I know, it's OpenStep old. Roger Rosner used to be part of Lighthouse, I think it was, back in the Next Step days, and he's been making the software forever. And the code base was really old. So instead of rewriting it, they took the iOS engine and they moved that over to the Mac. And it's sort of like Final Cut Pro 10 or iMovie, I think it was 07, where they've stripped everything down. They've started rebuilding it, but they have not had time to add everything back. I don't know if they'll ever add AppleScript back. It'll depend on what their business purpose is like.
Sal Seguin must be spinning in his beret. I mean, that's just not nice.
Well, he did have some wins with Mavericks. So if his macOS automation page lists new features that Mavericks included, but yeah, every single loss is keenly felt and avidly punished. There are people who are like, can I switch offices with you for at least 5 weeks? As I don't want to talk to Sal for the next 5 weeks as I removed AppleScript from my product.
Yeah, as Peter Cohen pointed out, Microsoft Word has a bigger AppleScript dictionary than iWork now. There's 2 items in the dictionary. I mean, it's nothing.
It's a huge compromise. You get interoperability, you get binary compatibility between iOS and OS X, and you get the feature set being mirrored on the web. So in terms of integration, it's a huge win. In terms of specific features that might cause you so much pain you can no longer use them, including the loss of automation, then it's going to be a huge problem for you.
Yeah, that was kind of one of the larger gambles from last week's announcements, that Apple is doubling down on integration across Apple products. There is no Office suite that works so well across so many platforms. I mean, now iWork on everything is pretty much the same experience everywhere, which is going to be a good thing for independent and sole people who are doing things on their own. However, they have almost completely said that this product is in no way going to do the same work that Microsoft Office can do, because now, whereas Pages could be used for Pages and Numbers, I think they could be used for business, but different kinds of business purposes, and the interoperability between that app and Office was very, very good. But chiefly, they're talking about the same goal but with different intent. Now they really are saying that we are going to be completely upfront about this. This is not intended for professional use. I'm sure that some of you will be able to use it that way, but this is not in any way designed to be a competitor to Microsoft Office. That's an interesting move. I don't think it's necessarily the wrong move, but it does mean that if Apple intends to make any hay out of the idea of, our competitors actually charge $200 for these features, I think that everybody should say, yeah, no, they're charging. They're giving those things away in the form of WordPad, a product that's so simple they don't even bother advertising it anymore. They're charging $200 for the standard set of apps that everybody's looking for in a professional resume these days. So please don't say that.
Pivot tables, $200 for pivot tables.
But as Sal, Sal's a good friend. I talk to him all the time, and as he's pointed out, that one of the things that really propelled Apple forward in professional environments was the ability to automate workflows with AppleScript and Automator. And you see a lot of pre-press, giant, of course, admittedly, they're not using Pages for pre-press, but this is a really...
No, they can't.
They can't. Yeah. Unless export's all you need, you can't. but
it's like Final Cut Pro 10, though. I mean, everyone was incensed when that came out, and then slowly, bit by bit, they've been returning functionality to it. And now, if people are willing to give them a second chance, it's not that bad.
And it is true they desperately needed to start this project over. So,
but this is a different thing. AppleScript has always been the mutant mutant identical twin to the good fresh-faced scrub-faced kid that they keep downstairs. AppleScript has been like the one they keep chained up in the attic. They're willing to still feed it and keep it alive, but they don't really care about nurturing it and developing it,
which is a shame because it's much more important than it would seem. I mean, it's
exactly. This is like having emergency generator somewhere in your house. This is like having emergency water in your house. This is not something you use all the time, but when you have it, it really proves its worth. And it's also you're sort of running out of ways to really impress people with what a Mac can do these days. And really, I always take that first thing out of my pocket. Here, let me show you Automator. Let me show you how if you're kind of on the fence between Windows and a Mac, let me show you how easy it is to add a feature to the Mac right now. And that's only possible through scripting. A lot of people are not going to be using scripting, but Automator is easy enough to use that they are going to probably touch it at some point when they run against a wall somewhere. So my large fear going forward with the Mac is that Apple really doesn't care about providing an answer to that question. What happens 3 months from now when they are no longer easy to use users and they hit a wall? How are you helping those users to get through that wall? They are, I think, at this point, trying to say that wall's there for a purpose. Enjoy living inside this compound and try not to focus on the fact that there is light and daylight on the other side of that Sal Segoyan can teach you how to hot air balloon in.
Right. And we should point out, these are free apps now.
Yeah,
they're hardware subsidized apps now.
Yeah, well, and that, by the way, that's one of the reasons Apple's profit was down, is because they took $900 million in deferred income. Now, this is a complicated finance thing, which I'm going to screw up because I don't understand how finance works. But essentially, this is giving away the OS for free and giving away those apps for free is lost income, which they're going to, instead of booking in 1 year, which would be $900 million, they're going to defer it over a number of years, 2 years for iOS and 4 years for Macintosh. And their CFO says Apple's going to work hard to improve profit margins in the hardware to make up for the loss in software. In other words, while you might say, well, Apple makes so much money on hardware, no big deal to give away these software, it's not the case. In fact, it hit their earnings significantly.
And they said they're going to do it in perpetuity, too. It's not just a one-time thing.
By the way, I almost buried the lead. That's actually big. Oppenheimer said, we are going to give away OS X forever.
Yeah.
That is we will never again charge for the operating system. That's great.
Yeah.
That's a big story. We buried the lead. That's impressive.
We saved it as a surprise for later in the show.
Surprise. Guess what? You'll never pay for operating. But what Cook said is we really think that the software is an important part of the Macintosh and iOS experience, and that's why we want to give it away. That's what we've always done. You want to make great software, you got to make the hardware too. It goes together.
Mm. I think it's more strategic than that. It really is about convincing developers to get on board with this entirely new future for Apple. And the way to do that is to point them at, here's how many people are running the latest version of the operating system. We will always make it the simplest thing, the most pain-free way for people to upgrade. And so therefore, if the users are going to be eager to use 10.9, why shouldn't your app also be taking advantage of 10.9? So that's the real point of it.
So I said I was going to let you guys pick some stories. Have I anything that there's a couple more I would we should mention, probably the fact that Disney and Pixar yanked movies from the iTunes store as well as the Amazon Prime store, and if you had them in your libraries paid for, they yanked those too. Some say that was a mistake, a bug. I'm kind of the opinion they just were curious what the reaction would be.
Would anybody know?
It was a trial balloon, is what it was.
Give me my Lion King back.
Yeah, but that's a problem.
We've been asking for the fusion of like the cable companies and these service providers all along. Unfortunately, what they really adopted from that business model is, let's try to remove services and keep the price the same and see who notices.
We'll see. It's not back yet, right? If you bought The Lion King on the iTunes store and you didn't download it, you just trusted it to be downloadable in the future, it is gone for now from your library.
And I never download anything. I have everything.
I don't either.
Stream off my Apple TV.
And that's maybe we need to learn a lesson here. You know, you don't. I mean, this is all completely within the terms of service. Mm-hmm. They say very clearly, you don't own this. You know, we could revoke it at any time. And
legal, it's just not very nice.
It's not a nice thing to do, especially if you have kids who like watching The Lion King over and over and over again. Daddy, where's my Lion King?
Yeah,
well, Mr.
Pixar
decided, Mr. Disney decided to remove it.
You know that scene in which Kimba is being like held over that cliff. Now imagine Disney throwing Kimba.
Kid, I got 2 words: Hakuna Matata.
It's the circle of commercial life. They take your money and don't feel obligated to deliver a service. The circle of stockholder appeasement.
But I, you know, I'm not just like you, Renee. I don't want to store this stuff. I got enough clutter. I like not having physical media. I don't want to waste hard drive space because I can always watch the movie anytime.
Yeah. And when you break faith with audience like that, it's really hard to get it back.
I think that's the problem. It hurts. It hurts this model.
This is why anytime there's a movie that I want to keep, I will buy it on physical media and then rip it. And I will see the FBI warning. I will say thank you, FBI warning, but for research purposes only. And then after validating that this service actually works, of course, I zero out that section of the hard drive.
See, that's the unintended consequence of this kind of behavior is then that person feels completely legitimate in going to a BitTorrent site and downloading a very nice high-res
now they're saying, look, I paid for this.
I own it.
I own it. Why should I not get a copy of something that I've actually paid for?
And you really don't want to teach people how to do that if you're trying to fight that.
Yeah.
Because once they experience it, they go, hey, this works pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm amazed by how they operate in business. I'm amazed every time I put in a Blu-ray and I have to go through an FBI warning. I have to go through 3 different commercials sometimes for things that have nothing to do with movies even, and I can't skip over it. And they're trying to tell me that this is a better
playing in 10 years.
Yeah.
Insane.
It's like, you've already disappointed me with that movie.
I'm sorry, your copy of Avengers won't play because your security chips are out of date. Please put in an incredibly long password via a PlayStation 4 controller.
I hate that so much. You know, I'm moving, and so that means I have to reset up everything. And God, I hate that process.
Oops, didn't work. Wrong password.
Oh, yeah. You know, you really don't have to obscure it with dots when I'm trying to type it in with a PlayStation controller. Really, please don't.
Yeah. And thank you for putting the hyphen on the second alternate keyboard. Damn you.
So painful.
Just damn you to hell.
So painful. Oh.
Don't you realize that the fact that I use hyphens instead of spaces is why hackers cannot figure out my passwords?
I'm using an M hyphen. You'll never figure that out. It's Unicode 242.
I'm using the internet thumbs up. Unicode thumbs up is my password.
Okay, and in our comedy bit of the week, former Apple CEO John Sculley mulls bid to buy BlackBerry.
Well, everybody else is, right?
He's a business genius. All right.
It's an interesting services company.
Did I VBM? Wow. Did I? Are you using it? You're Canadian. You ought to use it.
I'm using it because half my friends work for Crackberry and they're all BBM addicts. So I get BBMs from them whether I like it or not.
God, welcome back to the 90s.
We had an actual fun today because iMessage supports animated GIFs, which I was not aware of, and I got an animated GIF and I tried to use it in BBM and I couldn't get it to work.
No, of course not. They didn't have animated GIFs in 1982.
That's my next feature.
And did I miss anything? Anything you guys want to talk about before we get to our picks of the week?
No, I want to talk about AppleScript, but we covered that.
Yeah, that.
The chat room asked Leo about Mavericks and Gmail because that's been a big issue lately.
Yeah, Tidbits. The Tidbits article really, I think. In fact, I think Adam Eng said it was like the most read Tidbits article of all time.
Well deserved. I mean, Google has always had an eccentric IMAP implementation, and it's never been comfortable for me on Mail. But Mail is less tolerant of it than ever before, so they don't play nicely.
I think part of it, though, is that Joe Kissel had already done this wild workaround, and then that broke. Because I have not had any trouble. But I
don't either, but I have like 40 gigs of Gmail on my local machine now, and he was trying to avoid that problem.
Yeah, that's it. Because it downloads all mail.
Yeah.
If you don't somehow prevent it from it. And I don't mind having all mail on there. I do mind when it re-downloads it. That's kind of annoying.
especially because Google puts up a bandwidth exceeded warning and stops you from downloading it for a day.
Right.
Even though they're Google, and I don't think they have any bandwidth limits, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic, isn't it?
They're saying, I'm sorry, we can't attach ads to these as fast as you can download them.
Do you want to summarize this story? Because I don't know how many people are bit by this.
I mean, if you have just installed Gmail and you've never done any hacks to it and you're using it in Mail.app, you're fine. If you've done a bunch of remaps, if you've tried to eliminate the all mail folder, then that no longer works and you're not going to have a lot of fun. And it is going to try to download stuff and it is going to respawn deleted messages. So you probably want to clean install Gmail, or you want to look at a mail alternative like Sparrow or Airmail.
Right.
Or
Sparrow's
Mailplane.
dead. I actually went and tried to get Sparrow, but because Google bought them, it hasn't been updated in a long time. I don't know if Sparrow's the right choice at this point.
Some people still like it. Apparently, it still works.
It's very Gmail-ish.
I would just really love Google to offer Google Sync. Like if you're a paid Google Accounts user, let me have Exchange on the desktop the way you do in mobile, and I will never darken your doorstep again.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm glad the chat room reminded me of that one, because that is a big story for some people. Andy Anako, your pick of the week.
My pick of the week is Ulysses 1.1.
Oh, I love Ulysses. Have we mentioned that before?
I think I'm not sure if I picked Ulysses or Daedalus, which is their companion iOS app. No matter what I did, they just updated it, and it's a serious update. It's not a 0.1; it really is more like a 0.5 update. And they added a bunch of. This is a responding to the users who love our product sort of update with a lot of requested features. What I like, and I didn't. If this has been in the previous release, I did not see it, and it's in the release notes, so I'm going to trust that this is a new feature. I like the way that they're using style sheets now, or rather interpreting. They've enhanced the idea of what a text-based editor is for. What Ulysses is so great at is that I think it's the perfect bridge between an app like BBEdit, which is still the app you want if you're writing code, and Scrivener, which is still the app you want if you've got a complicated writing project that involves lots of research, lots of notes, lots of construction, lots of architecture behind it. Ulysses is the perfect bridge because, like Scrivener, it puts all of your text files in one place and allows you to organize them and impose some sort of order of it. Like BBEdit, though, it is a text-based word processor where all of the formatting and all the markup you're doing is being done by actually embedding codes in there. So the overall idea is that you're just going to write. You're not going to worry about where this is going to wind up. You're just going to mark it up so that you've encouraged your intent for this word should be boldface. This should be a headline. This should be formatted as a sidebar. And then only.
I'm sorry, reading their webpage. They've got a sense of humor. The soul men do.
They are soul men.
Yes.
But the idea is that only when you are ready to deploy it will it actually convert all the markup into whatever it is your target wants. Right. So that if your target is a Word file, at that point all of your markup turns into actual Microsoft Word style boldface. If you're putting this on the web, only then does your markup turn into HTML or style sheets. What I like about 1.1, this is why I've really started to use it on an upcoming project that I'm working on. That it allows if I'm doing something that was going to be published on the web, it requires a lot of clever little markup stuff, and the most soul sapping part of this every time is formatting this big header block that has to be all kinds of complicated CSS. And actually, tailing back to AppleScript, I used to use BBEdit for this and simply run a script that will take sentence 1, 2, 3, 4 and put all this complicated CSS and HTML on it. With Ulysses, what you can do is simply define give a fine-grained definition of here is what I mean when I mean this markup tag. Here's what this markup tag should be, and here's how you should reformat this when I try to deploy this over here as opposed to over here. And so you can simply focus on just simply arbitrarily tagging things, making a document that's easily read by eye, and only when you're done with it and when you sort of burn a copy to disk, so to speak, does it turn into this really, really well-formatted, well-commented CSS and HTML file. So it's nice for that. Again, there are people who are real acolytes of plain text editing. I'm not in that camp yet, because I do like being able to see something bold in front of me as I'm typing boldface, the radical ideas like that. But again, I think it fills a necessary gap between a formal word processor like Scrivener and a text-only editor like BBEdit. If you are in any way interested in plain text editing, I think it's the way to go. Not only for all the features that I've talked about, but also because it does have that really nice companion app for iOS. So until these really great, until Scrivener for iOS gets released, which I hope will be released in 2014, I'm finding it to be the easiest way to have a complicated multi-document production synced easily between an iPad and a Mac.
Now, I bought Ulysses 2, and I'm wondering, I didn't upgrade. Should I? Because it's a $45 upgrade.
Yeah, I'm about to say it's not cheap. It's $45, but this is the going rate for a professionally written app that will help you save time and effort and energy. I think it's worth that amount of money. You should evaluate that it's the right app for what you want to do. Again, if you are very, very happy with Pages, and it would sort of bum you out to suddenly have to type underscores to italicize things, and you are not finding a real big problem with your workflow as it is, I don't think Ulysses is going to help you. But if you're editing at any time, I'm writing this, it's going to wind up in an ebook, or I'm writing this, and this is going to wind up in the web, and I'm really tired. I have to go out and get myself a drink before I come back to the house and prepare this as an EPUB as the final step. An editor like Ulysses can save you a lot of time and a lot of energy because of the way it's natured.
If you like markup, you'll love Ulysses. That is Andy's pick. How about you, Renee Ritchie? What do you got for us?
I have two, and I added one after we were discussing Hypercard. There's apps like Hype, which let you do a lot of really cool, almost Flash-like animation using CSS. But if you've got web development experience, you might still want to roll your own. So there's this book out called, it's fairly new, called CSS Transforms, an Interactive Guide. And it's by Vicky Murley, who until last year, I think, was Apple's Safari technology evangelist. So she really knows her stuff. And if you look at Apple's product pages, you can see they're doing a lot of really interesting things with CSS transformations and just web technologies in general. So if you understand CSS already, but you want to start doing all the fancy stuff that the Apple kids are doing, I bought this the day it came out. I'm working my way through it. It's easy enough for me to understand, and I have very little web dev background. I can't recommend this book enough. Unfortunately, it was written in iBooks Author, so it's only iPad compatible and now Mac compatible thanks to Mavericks. It doesn't work on the iPhone. But if you're doing web dev, you probably want a big screen, to have next to you as a reference anyway. So I would absolutely check that out. It's CSS Transforms, an Interactive Guide by Vicky Murley.
All right.
Let your inner Hypercard out with new-based web technology.
Your inner geek out.
And my other pick is no great surprise to anybody who exists on the internet. It is Twitterrific.
Love Twitterrific.
3, which just came out. I remember I was at the WWDC keynote.
Tweetbot,
right?
You're talking about.
Tweetbot, sorry. Tweetbot, I apologize. Twitterrific is also fantastic.
When you said version 3, I thought, wait a minute, that's Tweetbot. And Chad agreed.
3 it's absolutely fantastic. I was at the WWDC keynote and I saw Paul Haddad, the developer, right afterwards, and he had this look on his face like Apple had just given him a brand new bag of toys to play with. And I believe he's not just using UI dynamics, but he's rolled a lot of his own physics. But it's got delightful little touches, like when you want to change one of those things, you hold it down and little bubbles just pop up. Or when you want to go to your account, everything is very nicely animated. Everyone was kind of wondering what Tweetbot would do because they had so much character as a richly textured application. It was almost a poster child for what the iOS 6 look could do if you made it incredibly characterized and turned it into a personality, and it wasn't clear what iOS 7 would mean for them. But just like Letterpress, in a way, they took all that personality and they made it dynamic and interactive with blurs and physics and bounces and collisions. And you can, tap a photo, the photo pops up. You can spin it around. You can throw it away like a card. It's full of all those delightful little interactions. Paul and Mark even gave themselves their own little verified by Twitter badges, which you can see there, verified by Tapbots. And it's sort of the spiritual successor for Tweety, which was always my favorite out on the road. Triage, get stuff done app. I use Twitterrific on my iPad because on my iPad I just want to read and I like the unified timeline for that. But when I'm on my iPhone, and especially when I'm out and about and I just want to get through Twitter, reply triage stuff as fast as I can. I always go back to Twitterrific because its workflow makes so much logical sense for me. There are some features because they rewrote the entire app that didn't make it into the new version, but they are adding that. They are adding. Right now, they're using system fonts for the dynamic text, and they're going to add independent fonts. They're going to add a night mode if you want to turn the interface dark again. So there's a lot of stuff coming in the next update. But for now, it's a fantastic rewrite. It is a new app. If you bought it before, you do have to buy it again. Tweetbot 2 was free. And unfortunately, Paul and Mark both have little kids they want to feed. So they are charging $3 right now on sale for the new version. I use it 8 hours a day every day. So they could easily charge me $30 and I wouldn't blink. But it is only $3 for now. So if you want to upgrade, I encourage you to do so, post haste.
And this is the iOS version, not the desktop.
iOS 7.
Yeah. iOS 7. Because, I use it also on the desktop. I love Tweetbot. I like Twitterrific, too.
Yeah.
And, of course, the late lamented Tweety.
They are very different workflows. That's what I like about Twitter. And, John Gruber said this a long time ago. It's a playground for designers, and you can make very different experiences with the same core technology.
Right. We mentioned AirMail. I like Apple Mail a lot, and the main reason I stick with Apple Mail, even if there are Gmail problems, which I haven't really had too much problem with, is because I like to use PGP encryption. I use the GPG tools I've mentioned before, and it seems like that's I want to put out the word to all the email, third-party email clients is support PGP or GPG, just because then it would be so nice. Everybody could say, oh, yeah, get this, and it would work. Nobody does that, to my knowledge, yet. If anybody has a suggestion, I would love it. But you mentioned AirMail, and AirMail is actually a really nice interface if you use a Gmail to get into your Gmail. It's pretty, it's simple, it gets the job done, and I highly recommend it. I have to be careful when I show my email. Okay, there we go. This is the 3-pane interface. Do you use this, Renee? You mentioned it.
I have tried it. I'm going through this big dilemma now because I am a huge mail.app user, but it's taking up so much space on my computer, and I don't need all that available. So either I'm going to move to AirMail or I'm going to lock Gmail up in Chrome next to Flash in sort of a jail.
If you like Sparrow and you're saying, well, it's kind of dead because Google bought them and they're not improving it, I think this is a really good choice, AirMail. It's cheap, $1.99. App Store, of course, desktop app. I think it's great, and I paid for it, downloaded it, installed it, but I don't use it that much because I'm a mail user. It's from Bloop.
Great app.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this edition of MacBreak Weekly. We did think Alex would be able to join us from Rwanda. He says he has more bandwidth than God, but nowhere to sit. Isn't it always that way? That's a third world problem.
But no chairs.
Yeah. So maybe he'll come back, but he could not be here today in case you were tuning in and wondered where he was. Oh, I forgot. I did have a better pick. It's this, the Hypercard Script Language Guide to the HyperTalk language. Just a fabulous book for those of you who are under the age of 30, have no memory whatsoever of HyperTalk, but would like to duplicate HyperCard on the web. This is your reference manual. And if you should need it, a shrink-wrapped copy of HyperCard. Alex Gumpel, who is our Windows guy around here, he's waited in line at midnight at the Microsoft store last week to buy a Surface 2. Also, oddly enough, collects vintage Macintosh stuff, but prefers it shrink-wrapped in the box. It's been resealed, so you can open it. Oh, it's been real. I'm not gonna open it.
Mint in the box.
There. Really? Well, you you have a resealer?
I had access to it.
I'm not going to reseal it.
Cheating, isn't it?
No. Shh. Stay on the eels say o real ale ray. My pig Latin's rusty. I apologize. Wow, HyperCard. It came on three floppies. I can hear it when I write.
It's a plastic.
Yeah. Those are better picks. Icons, thank you,
Leo?
Alex. Huh?
It came on save icons.
Yeah, what is that? There's a save icon. Oh, it must be a coaster that goes with the software. There's a save icon in here. Kids today, they don't know. They don't know. Renee Rich is at imore.com. That's where you'll find his work. He also works at Crackberry. and other places.
Android Central sometimes?
Android Central. We won't mention any of that. And he has an A7 chip on his wall.
I do.
I
love
that.
the A7 chip, Leo. I would marry it if it was legal in this state.
I'm excited by the A7. I cannot wait to get my iPad mini with Retina display, A7 chip, etc., etc.
I was talking to Brian Klug about it, and I was asking him, is it too much for the iPhone or too little for the iPad? Because how can they have the same chip? And he said it is literally a desktop class processor that has no business being in a phone. That
at all.
Apple is just and it's ridiculous how much power is.
That's so exciting, and I just wish they would get the. I am going to be camping on the Apple Store. I figure I have a couple of weeks before I have to do that, but starting about November 15th, every night, midnight, Cupertino time, I'm going to log into the Apple Store and just try to buy an iPad mini with.
I'm sure they'll announce that. I don't think they'll try to surprise anybody.
But maybe they'll announce it. Yeah, maybe I don't want to miss the announcement.
Yeah,
I want it. Andy Iannacco, Chicago Sun-Times baseball fan. He will be glued to the television set this coming Wednesday.
If there's a Game 7, I will be answering the door in my official costume as annoyed person who really didn't want to be taken away from the game.
It's not too late to start growing a beard, a really bushy Bo Sox beard.
Exactly.
That is
I just hope it doesn't affect their balance. As the longer they go, the more it can affect their swing, and that's problematic.
They're all looking like the Unabomber now.
Makes them scary. Makes them scary.
We do
also, and this is actually a question that I really wanted seriously answered. Now that they've got now some of them have these huge beards. Okay, so now they can sort of extend their beard into the strike zone. So if the ball just hits their beard, do they get the base? That would be a very good test.
That actually happened. He had the elbow guard on there, and it had like 3 inches to his elbow. Hit by pitch.
There you go.
Very handy, and it doesn't hurt.
Next, can we is it too late to sign ZZ Top as pinch hitter?
There's a guy who bicycles around Petaluma who has a big long gray beard that he splits in the middle, and it's like a mustache beard, with the little waxed ends.
Well, it's not split in the middle. It's probably the arc reactor he installed probably just burned off that section of hair.
We do MacBreak Weekly at 11 a.m. Pacific time. That is 2 p.m. Eastern time. Currently 1800 UTC, but next week we go to summertime here in the United States, which means our clocks will change. But of course UTC does not, which means we will change UTC time. Figure that out. It'll be 1900 UTC instead of 1800. So next week you do the math because I'm really challenged.
Zigzag Zulu.
So I'll say it again. 11 a.m. Pacific. That's not going to change. 2 p.m. Eastern time. That's not going to change because we move the show. But UTC will change because you don't observe summertime. Figure that out. 1900 UTC.
Well, Greenwich Observatory is in London. They don't really get very much summertime weather, so why bother?
Why bother changing? They don't have to get up at sunrise to milk the cows.
They're already miserable.
Harvest the
British
crops.
summertime is over.
It is over. Is it over in Canada already?
No, we copied the U.S. because we were desperately afraid of missing our television shows at the proper time slot.
I've got a big dish aimed at Detroit, and I don't want to miss it.
Now, what year did you do that? Because I'm trying to figure out the last time American broadcast television has been so good that I would consider resisting the standard.
We did a day and date
change.
with you guys. We were petrified of being left behind.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. If you can't watch live, we do make on-demand available after the fact, and that's always the same time, whatever time works for you, at twit.tv/MBW. If you'd like to be in studio with us, we always have room for more. Just email tickets at twit.tv. We'll put a chair out for you, have a nice hot bun sitting underneath it. Hot bun's not included. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Now get back to work because break time, well, it's actually over.